As US President Joe Biden defends his record in office during a marathon press conference marking 12 months into the job. Well, for more on what was raised during that press briefing, we can cross live to London to speak with Julie Norman, co-director of the UCL Centre on US politics. Julie, thanks for joining us there again. Biden, he did manage to hit some of his goals during his first year in office, but missed others. How would you sum up his first year in the top job?
Yeah, so Biden's press conference yesterday was an attempt to recap his first year and acknowledge some of the downsides, some of the limitations. But of course, in his own press conference, he was focusing on the successes. And to be fair, the first half of Biden's first year, he really did come out strong. He was facing two big domestic issues, of course, namely COVID and the economy. On the pandemic, he came out with a very strong vaccine rollout that saw most Americans, or the majority of Americans, vaccinated by midsummer. And on the economy, he came out very quickly with a $1.9 trillion relief package and later followed by a bipartisan infrastructure bill. So he had some early successes in both those two key domestic issues, which he rightly highlighted. But he's taken a hit on both those issues recently. On COVID, of course, the new variants have not only made the pandemic lingering, but have also pointed out shortcomings in the administration's planning, especially around having rapid testing. Biden's plans for vaccine mandates have also been pushed back by the courts. And on the economy, even though unemployment is very low in the U.S., under 4%, or even though unemployment is very low, under 4%, inflation is at a decades high at over 7%. So right now, that is a major challenge for the administration to get that inflation piece in particular under control. On other aspects of Biden's foreign policy, of course, Ukraine and Russia is very much in the focus for Americans as well as Europeans right now. He did take a number of questions on that. His responses on that were a bit shaky and I think were a bit rattling to some allies as well as many in the U.S. In reality, the U.S. with European allies has rightly been engaging in very intense diplomacy and negotiations with Russia around the question of Ukraine. But it is still obviously a very fluid situation, and it's one that will certainly be dominating the president's agenda as well as much of the world's agenda going into his next year, even though, of course, he probably assumed that some of that foreign policy focus would be elsewhere. And finally, for Biden, he's just going to have the ongoing challenge of trying to unite Americans. There is a lot of concern from both the right and the left about the future of democracy right now. Biden, unfortunately, has not been able to unite the country in many ways that I think he wanted to and that many expected that he would. We're going into a midterm year where there will be congressional elections in 2022. So we can expect much of that partisan rhetoric to amp up. And we even heard Biden himself amping up a little bit more of that rhetoric in that speech yesterday in the press conference. So in this next year, I think we'll see Biden leaning into a bit more of the strong words, but probably needing to scale back some of the more transformative aspects of his agenda, breaking up Build Back Better and being a bit more realistic on some of his other legislative priorities.
Julie Norman, co-director of the UCL Centre on US politics, thanks so much for joining us.